Feel like you're being pulled in 1,000 directions? Let's fix that. Download your free rebalancing toolkit and learn how to design an optimized week that lets you feel like you have it all. Get the goods at brilliantbalance.net/have-it-all.
I'm Cherylanne Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for working women who are ready to shine. Each week, I bring you ideas, inspiration, and insight on balance, business, and getting it all done gracefully. You ready? Let's be brilliant. Hello, and welcome to episode 14 of the Brilliant Balance podcast. I can't believe we're at episode 14 already, y'all. This is becoming a great place. You know, this is a place I envisioned where we could talk about what's possible for ourselves as a generation of working women. I imagined this as a place where we could challenge assumptions and challenge our limiting beliefs, the ones that might be keeping us playing smaller than we ever intended. And I saw this as a place where we could reframe success on our own terms. And I'm so happy that it's unfolding in exactly that way. It's so fun to be supporting you on this journey into what's possible when you redesign the rhythm of your life, right? And you make the choice to deliver on your calling. So today's episode in particular is one that, as I was jotting down some thoughts to get ready for this, I was really excited about, because I think that there's nothing more exciting to me than watching someone step into her potential. It's certainly been the most exhilarating chapters of my life when I made that choice to really step into what was possible. And it has been the highest high to watch the women who I coach and who are in my programs take those same steps. So today is about you. It's about you playing bigger than you have been willing to play up until now, or maybe bigger than you thought was possible. Right? Today is about shutting down all the messages that are keeping you in a little tiny box. And it's about welcoming in new messages that encourage you to expand, to open up, right? It's really about stepping into your potential. And the truth is that, you know, as I look at the pattern of the women who reach out to me, who are thinking about engaging me as their coach, the biggest fear that I often hear is the fear that we won't ever do the thing we're truly here to do, right? Someone will get on the phone or be in a conversation with me, and she'll talk about all kinds of things that aren't quite working, right? She's too busy, she's not getting enough done, her relationships aren't great, or whatever it is. But underneath it all is this fear that she's going to get to the end of her life not having done the things she's truly here to do. And what's scarier is she may not even know what that is, but it's nagging at her because somewhere along the line, she's worried that she's settled, and that was never the plan. Okay, so when we first talk, there's this little rekindling, right? A reawakening. That little spark comes back that says, hey, remember me? Remember the dream that you used to entertain? You know, remember back when you thought the sky was the limit and you could do whatever you set out to do? Let's go do some of that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I want to talk about what it would take for you to step into your potential. And in order to do that, there are a few concepts that we're going to break into here. So this is pretty meaty, right? There's some good stuff for you to ponder and think about, maybe even beyond the episode today. And we're just going to take them one by one, give you some examples and try to really let this settle in so you can do battle, right? Wrestle with what it is that is keeping you from truly stepping into your potential. So the first concept that I want to get into is this tension between identity and potential. So if you think about this, within every one of us, there is this kind of basic human struggle between our identity and our potential. So what are the two terms, right? Your identity is how you see yourself. It's this whole set of abilities and beliefs and characteristics that you've sort of claimed as who you are. It's rooted in your past. It's rooted in what you can already see. And your potential is who you believe you can become. Your potential is oriented in the future. It's a collection of accomplishments or characteristics that you think might be possible, but you haven't actually done them yet. So because you haven't done them yet, we create this artificial distinction, and we have these two camps. On the left is our identity, and on the right is our potential, right? Or in the past and present is our identity, and off in the future is our potential. But here's the flip. Your potential and your identity are actually one and the same. Think about that for a minute. If you view your whole life as this continuum of time and space, right, from birth to death, your identity is actually the sum total of what you have already done and what you will do. It's just your identity is sort of the current expression of your potential. Then as you go off and you pursue new things and you ultimately accomplish them, then you traditionally claim them as part of your identity. But when you claim them as already part of you, when you can look off into your potential and say, I am already that person, haven't done it yet, but it's already part of my identity, then you start to behave differently. It's as though you knew that you would have a best-selling book, or you would have a $5 million business, or you would have the VP title in your company, or that you would win the piano competition. If you can view what is possible for you as part of your current identity, you start to behave as the person who has already done that. And that opens up wider worlds than you could imagine if you stay rooted in this kind of artificial dichotomy between your identity and your potential. So that's the first super important concept that we have to kind of wrestle through as individuals when we're ready to step into our potential. We have to stop saying, well, that's not me because I have never done it. And we have to start saying, if it lies within my potential, it's already part of my identity. Big concept that I want you to really kind of parse through as you think about these concepts of what it would take for you to step forward. So here's the second one. The second concept is this idea of possibility. I love the quote, dwell in possibility. In fact, I have it pretty much nearby all the time in my office. This notion of dwell in possibility. Because if you are not operating from possibilities, you are by default operating from limitations. There's really no in between. Okay, so to step into your potential, you need to spend as much of your mental energy as you can living in the world of what's possible. And if you are someone who believes in very small possibilities, it will be very difficult for you to achieve extraordinary things because we often achieve precisely what we believe we can. Training yourself to first dwell in what's possible and then to expand your definition of what's possible into something bigger and broader, right? Sort of broadening your view of what's possible. That has a dramatic effect on your ability to step toward it.
Feel like you're being pulled in 1,000 directions? Let's fix that. Download your free rebalancing toolkit and learn how to design an optimized week that lets you feel like you have it all. Get the goods at brilliantbalance.net/have-it-all.
So let me give you some ideas here that you might use or adopt, some practices that you could take on to learn to dwell in possibility. One of my absolute favorites would be reading biographies. Finding biographies of inspiring people who did big things, who did things that you might one day aspire to do, right? Similar adventures. Those can be biographies from historical figures, who behaved courageously many years ago or really left a legacy of innovation or impact, of service, of education, whatever your chosen field is. Or they can be current biographies of people who are doing this now. And if you're not a reader, although I suspect most of you are, you may be able to do this through documentaries. Documentaries are just visual biographies. So there might be a documentary on somebody who you really admire that it's mind-opening to think about what they had to push through in order to achieve what they achieved. Another practice that you could adopt is reading articles or books about innovation. So, I am not particularly scientific. My gifts and talents and interests lie in other fields, but sometimes reading about scientific innovations, breakthroughs in the world of science are incredibly mind-opening to me to get me to think bigger about what's possible. There are so many people in the world today and who have gone before us who have radically altered the way we interact with this world through scientific innovation. And sometimes that alone is enough to get me to realize that, what even my parents thought was possible at my age or what I thought was possible as a child has been altered dramatically by some of these areas of innovation. And so reading about how those innovations came into the world can be very powerful and mind-opening. And then more on the psychology side of things, I think, this is why we probably love Instagram and Pinterest and the quotes, the inspirational quotes or stories or snippets or images that we can curate a collection of for ourselves through these social media tools can be mind-opening about possibility as well, right? They can remind us of who we are when we are at our best as humanity. And then they can draw us toward that. So very simple and short form way of kind of staying inspired are those quotes and stories. I think the final pieces are around positivity. So being in an environment of positive people or putting yourself around positive thinking can be very powerful in getting you to stay in possibility. So just think about it. If you have an idea and you've kind of been tweaking this idea and then you put that idea in front of someone and they puke all over it and they tell you it's stupid and it's never going to happen and it's not possible, that does not encourage you to dwell in the world of possibility, right? So putting yourself in an environment with people who are encouragers and reading books or taking courses or going to seminars where there is an emphasis placed on, the power of harnessing positive thinking in your mind can really make a huge, huge difference in this arena. Okay, so that's the second point, is dwelling in possibility. And then the third concept is that it's not really enough to just sort of dream there. It's an important first step, right? Imagining what's possible in your mind and dreaming it. But the third concept is imperfect action. Because I want you to ask yourself, how often have you let an opportunity go by because doubt made you hesitate? Right? How often have you walked away from a possibility because you chose to believe that you weren't ready? It's probably happened to all of us, right? Opting out or walking away before we even begin is a really common reason that we fail to reach our full potential. So why would we do this, right? Why would we walk away from a dream without even starting? Well, it's usually because we are terrified that we'll fail. And the only way that we can be 100% sure that we're not going to fail is not to do it at all. And there's really only one path through this because, of course, the paradox is if we don't do it at all, we are never going to succeed either. So the path to get us moving is, I call it imperfect action. We have to be willing to get it wrong in order to get it right? You have to take those first shaky steps because those are the ones that let you find your footing. And if you're ever going to reach your potential, you have to leave the starting blocks. So by definition, fulfilling your potential, go back to what we said at the beginning of this episode, it means doing things you've never done before. If you'd already done them, you would have claimed them as part of your identity. So the person who you will become by doing it is a more full expression of your identity, and you have to take action in order to fully become that person. Imperfect action solves two problems. It solves the perfectionistic tendency of if I can't do it perfectly, I'm not going to do it at all. And it also kind of solves the overwhelm problem of it's so overwhelming that I just can't even imagine where to start, and so I won't start at all. So by giving yourself permission to let those first steps be imperfect, you can get off the starting blocks. And that is how you step toward what's possible. I want to go back through these three concepts. If you want to fulfill your potential, there are three things we've talked about today. The first is expanding your definition of identity to include your potential, to have essentially a broader definition of identity that encompasses things you haven't yet done, but you believe you can do. The second concept is dwelling in possibility, putting yourself in an environment where you dream of what might be possible with a different set of actions than you are currently taking. And then the third is taking that consistent, imperfect action in the direction of your biggest dreams. Those are some big concepts. And I want you to really take a little bit of time to let each one sink in for you and to think about how those might be shaping your behavior and maybe very unintentionally causing you to play safe and small. And I want to challenge you to push through to the next level for you, whatever that level looks like, by expanding your definition of your identity and really dwelling in possibility and taking that consistent, imperfect action. But I want to warn you that when you do these things, you are going to come face to face with a difficult enemy, imposter syndrome. And so next time what we are going to do is we are going to dig into this very insidious condition and show you how you can step around it. We have a really practical strategy for pushing past imposter syndrome. And if you don't even know what that is, we're going to dig into what exactly it is. And before we close, I just want to invite you to come on over and join me in the Brilliant Balance Facebook group. We can help you put these principles into practice and start to give you one of those environments where you can dwell in possibility. So just come on over to Facebook and search for Brilliant Balance, and you will find us there in the groups. In the meantime, have a great day and go be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.